Hi Math 2 friends! So today we're going to go over how to solve quadratic equations that are given to you in Vertex form. So far we've gone over how to factor to solve, right? You factor the quadratic, set the factor is equal to 0 and solve that way. And the other method we've learned is quadratic formula. Those two methods that I just described work great when it's in standard form, which is standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So when it's in that form, you could use factoring or quadratic formula based on what kind of coefficients you have. However, if we look at these problems, these are in Vertex form. If you remember Vertex form, that is ax minus h squared plus k equals y. So this quadratic is more in Vertex form. So the way that we're going to solve this is we're essentially going to try and isolate this guy right here. And then we're going to go from there. So I want you to kind of, when you're trying to get this guy by himself, I want you to imagine, like if I gave you 2x plus 13 equals 21, right? We're trying to get this guy by himself. We have to try and get x by itself. It's the same process, okay? So we're going to subtract 13, right? That's normally what we would do here. And we get 2x minus 9 squared. And I'll keep my calculator out here. We do 21 minus 13. And we get 8. Then we're going to go ahead and divide by 2. So we get x minus 9 squared equals 4. So now you can see that we have the squared part by itself. That's what's important. Once the squared part is all by itself, we're going to take the square root of both sides. All right? And when you take the square root of both sides, you must add plus minus. Don't forget to do that. So what this square does is it gets rid of my squared. The square root gets rid of the squared. So we get x minus 9 equals plus or minus, and this is now a 2 because the square root of 4 is 2. So then what we can do here is make two separate equations. Our two separate equations are going to be x minus 9 equals positive 2, and x minus 9 equals negative 2, okay? The reason we have 2 here is just because we had a plus minus 2, so we have to account for that. So then we would add 9, and one of our solutions is going to be that x equals 11. Then we're going to add 9, and one of our solutions is going to be that x equals 7, all right? So that is how you do it when it's in Vertex form. All right, let's go ahead and try the next one. So again, our first goal here is to isolate this guy, get him by himself. So all I need to get rid of is the 8. All right, so I'm going to do 35 plus 8, and I get 5x plus 8 squared equals 43. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and take the square root of both sides. And when I do that, I get 5x plus 8. Ooh, and I forgot plus minus, equals plus minus root 43, okay? And then at this point, what we can go ahead, and then at this point, what we can go ahead and do is split it into two equations, all right? We're going to say 5x plus 8 equals positive root 43, and 5x plus 8 equals negative root 43. Okay, and then now we just need to get x by itself. So we're going to subtract 8, and we get 5x equals negative 8 plus root 43, and then we divide by 5. So this is one of our solutions, which is negative 8 plus root 43. I know my 4 looks like a 9 there, doesn't it? All right, then we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to, let me move him over a little bit. We're going to subtract 8. And we get 5x equals negative 8 minus root 43. The reason I put the a in the front is just that's kind of, it makes it look more similar, right, to quadratic formula, our answers for quadratic formula. And typically you write the radical portion of a number second, right? So like, for example, you technically could write negative root 43 and then minus 8, but I just like to keep my radical second because that's nicer in terms of math speak. All right, we divide by 5, and this is our other answer. All right. Next one. So again, our first goal is to isolate the thing being squared. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to get rid of is the 6. So I get 16, 1 minus 2x squared equals 1. All right? And then the next thing I need to get rid of is the 16. So I'm going to go ahead and divide by 16. And I get 1 minus 2x squared equals 1 over 16. Okay? Then I do square root of both sides to get rid of my squared. And I get 1 minus 2x equals plus minus the square root of 1 over 16. So then I get 1 minus 2x equals plus minus, and the square root of 16, you can essentially write the square root of 1 and the square root of 16. You get 1/4, okay? So this is plus or minus 1/4, all right? And then we're going to go ahead and split this into two equations. So we've got 1 minus 2x equals 1/4. 1 minus 2x equals negative 1/4. Then we just solve these. We're going to subtract 1, subtract 1. So we get negative 2x equals, you could put it in decimal form, I don't really care. And then divide by negative 2. And we can put this back into fraction form here. What am I doing? Math enter, enter.
Meet Weather Live, the world's most
Sorry guys, my calculator decided to play an ad in the middle of my video, so I had to restart it. All right, so now at this point we're going ahead, we're doing 0.75 divided by negative 2. We can turn that into a fraction and we get 3/8 as our answer. All right, so that's one of our solutions, and then the next one, we got to do minus 1, minus 1. So we're going to do negative 1/4 minus 1, and we get negative 1.25, and then we're just going to divide by negative 2, and we get this, which is gross, so let's math enter that bad boy, and we get that, we get that x is equal to 5/8. All right, so these are our two solutions here. All right, so again, to reiterate, today we learned how to solve quadratics when they're given to you in Vertex form. We have previously learned how to solve by factoring and by using quadratic formula. So I want to kind of review these real quick. So to solve by factoring, of course, we need to get everything on the same side. So we're going to add 10x, then we have to add 4, add 4. So we get x squared plus 18x equals, plus 80 equals 0. And then when we're trying to use the factoring method, we have to figure out what multiplies to this number, adds to this number. So I can factor this doing x plus 8 and x plus 10. And then once I factor, I set my factors equal to 0. So I do x plus 8 equals 0, x plus 10 equals 0. And then we solve, and we get x is negative 8, and we get x is negative 10. All right, so that is the factoring method. Then we have to go ahead and this next one, I'm going to show you why we're not going to be able to use factoring on it. So we could do our first step here of getting everything on the same side. We get y squared minus 10y plus 14 equals 0. Okay. Now, of course, it looks like maybe we can factor this, right? And if we wanted to, we'd have to figure out, okay, well, what multiplies to 14 adds to negative 10? Okay. Well, 14, your options are really 1 and 14, and then 2 and 7, obviously with negatives. And unfortunately, neither of those options are going to add to give me negative 10. So when that happens, that tells you that you need to go ahead and use quadratic formula. So we go ahead, we get that a is 1, b is negative 10, and c is 14. Then we go and put that into quadratic formula. So we do opposite of b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Then I'm going to go and plug this ugly stuff into my calculator. So I do 100
minus 4 times 1 times 14, and I get 44. So I get 10 plus or minus root 44 all over 2. Then what we have to do is we have to see if we can simplify this radical. And in fact, we can simplify this radical. We're going to do 10 plus or minus, and then the 44 can get broken down into 4 times 11. So we get 10 plus or minus 2 root 11 all over 2. So then, at this point, we have to see if we can simplify this fraction. I know I've taught you guys quite a few methods on how to simplify this. One method would be to split it up. So we would do 10 over 2 plus or minus 2 root 11 over 2. And we end up with 5 plus or minus root 11. The other option is we could look at these numbers and say, is there something I can divide all 3 of these numbers by? And for 10, 2, and 2, you can divide all of those by 2. So we end up with 5 plus or minus root 11 all over 1, which is 5 plus or minus root 11. So those are 2 different ways you can work to simplify those. I don't care which method you use. Just make sure you do simplify it at the end there.